Welcome back to Building Together, everyone. I'm Colin,
And I'm Julia.
and today we are reviewing the Taj Mahal, the architecture set. Now, this is a set that came out June 1st here in the United States, and it's not a remake, but it's a redo of a creator set that came out twice. Once back in 2008, and then it was re-released in 2017, and that one had over 5,000 pieces, which was insane. This one has a little over 2,000 pieces and cost $120. Now, Julia, you did a lot of the build for this set on the speed build video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. So I'm curious to come to you first. What are some of your thoughts as you went through this? The architecture, the building techniques, all that.
So it definitely takes a lot of time to make, and there's a lot of small pieces. So when you look at the piece count on the set, it's really quite high, but yet you end up with a fairly small set, which in my case I'm a fan of because it doesn't take up a ton of space in my house. We're getting
True.
a little overrun in Lego here.
No, we're good. We're good.
So when you're building it, it's lots of tiny pieces all being put together. It's kind of interesting how they start with the plates and hook them together, and then you're just going around doing the same thing. If you are not a fan of doing anything repetitively, this is probably not the set for you because you do a lot of the same things as you go around it. You've got four sides that are almost all the same, with just a slight difference with the front, and then some of these are slightly different from these just to make it all work, but it's the same kind of process. So you end up doing a lot of things over and over. But when it comes together, it looks super nice. One thing I really liked were these columns here. They're just this interesting little cylindrical piece, but when they hook in on these little clips, and it all just fits in really nicely. These pieces, this section actually, in each corner, was a little tricky to figure out exactly how it all fit together, and it took me a few tries of going through a couple of the steps to figure out what they were trying to get me to do. So it is a little tricky, but that can just add to the challenge because it is more of an adult-oriented set.
Yeah, and the example that Julia used with these handle pieces, creative use of how to use different Lego pieces to get a detail into a set. And I recall seeing the candle pieces used on I think it was the Birch Books modular set for the apartment. They used a similar technique there, and I thought that was really creative. And I'm glad that they brought it back for this. Now, when you built this, you mentioned you start off building it on plates, right? But then you layer on the inside, right? It's not just a hollow building, correct?
Yeah, so if we can actually take a lot of these pieces out and find the inside. So we have this dome on the top that all lifts out very nicely and easily. And then inside we have this mausoleum piece. And then down inside we have the graves underneath.
So definitely some thought went into how to put the entire thing together and make it at least a little bit interactive. I mean, it's not a play set.
Right.
It's more of a set that you put on display, but yet it looks great and has a couple of additional features that I think help it exude kind of the Taj Mahal, right?
So another challenge I had was these little dome pieces here, these tiny little ones here. They are tricky as well because you have to get these pieces going the right direction, which you think, okay, it's a 50-50 shot. You just pay attention to which way it's going. But because of the way you flip it, I ended up rebuilding it a number of times, especially because Autumn was helping me. So I built 3 of them while Autumn built 1. And then I had to rebuild Autumn's, I think, 3 times to help her get through it because it is a little confusing which way that goes. So if you're doing a family build like we like to do, just keep that in mind. That might be a part an adult wants to try to do.
And I really appreciated the details of this set. The older Taj Mahal sets, over 5,000 pieces, they were massive, and they were able to get some detail because of the size. This one is much more scaled down, but I thought it did a good job of getting the details. You get the sense of the onion dome here at the top and these domes that are off to the side. You definitely get the sense of symmetry. So I think looking at some of the the background of the Taj Mahal in real life. It's very focused on symmetry, although I think I learned that the onion dome here itself isn't fully symmetrical.
Oh.
But then you have the nice archways at the front right here and on the sides, and I believe they're called Ivans or something like that in the Indo-Islamic architecture scene.
All right.
Yeah, throwing out some big words. My dad's an architect. He's probably laughing if he's watching this at me trying to stumble through some of these terms. But those details are still present here. And you got the four minarets that are symmetrical as well. And again, the thought that went into it, I think, is very strong. And yet they were still able to make it look interesting and feel like it's a significant set, even though it's much more scaled down than the old ones. Um, what pieces did you notice? You said it came with over 2,000 pieces, but a lot of them are small. But what was your sense as you were building this and you were using pieces?
So you can't get away from these tiny little tiles that you go on over and over and over, which is a little repetitive, but the main issue was that they're on each one stud, so it's really easy to get them a little crooked.
Yeah.
You have these ingot pieces that go all the way around, which add a really nice texture to it. So you end up with a lot of these white ingot pieces. You have a bunch of these little antennas. I don't know what these pieces are, but they look really nice as those little spires.
So in watching the speed build video, I was reminded when you talked about the tiles of the original modular build in the cafe corner. That set, I know some of the small criticisms of. It's an iconic set, but at the beginning you're placing tiles and it's one tile after another, and if you don't align them straight they can look a little awkward, and of course if you're a little bit OCD you will be spending a lot of time making sure that all those tiles are indeed straight. In this set alone there are almost 200 tan 1x1 tiles. There are slightly over 200 white 1x1 tiles. So when Julia talks about repetition and maybe getting a little bit boring, that's where it comes down to. That said, I actually like the fact that of the pieces that you get that are small in a Lego set, they're tiles. I love tiles. I love using 1x1 tiles for flooring or for details, whatever it might be. And white and tan are two great colors to have tiles in. So this is one of those where I look at it and I say, I know that a lot of the pieces are small. It's 2,000 pieces for $120. They're not, selling you a bunch of extra plastic for the sake of, giving you more pieces. These pieces, I think they're very useful. And I know it's repetitive in the building, but when I take this apart one day, it's going to be a bear.
Yeah, it's going to be awful.
I'm going to go through like 5 brick separators just to get all the tiles off of there, because removing tiles does chew up your brick separator, at least the way I do it. I could be doing it wrong. Comment below if you're having that problem with your brick separators as well, taking the tiles off, because I'll chew through those pretty quickly. Anyway, I have a drawer of the 1x1 tiles. I'm looking forward to see what this looks like once I get those all in there. So that's, again, repetitive building, but great pieces.
Everything looks really finished. The only open studs are on the bottoms of the corners. They don't have you putting on a tile there, even though they have you putting on a tile on all the others. So I'm not sure why they don't put the tile in that one spot, but everything else just looks super finished.
Yeah, even if you take a look closely in the windows themselves, you can see that there's another layer of building to it. And in fact, this set has 60 tan headlight bricks. I like headlight bricks. They're great for getting different snot techniques and details on your buildings and whatnot. 60 tan headlight bricks, that's a welcome addition to my collection. I know that for sure. And so again, the details are there. I know that it's a smaller scaled down set compared to the original Taj Mahal creative and creative expert sets, but you still get a lot of heft, I think, for what you're getting in the set. So there were some other pieces that really stood out to me as a person who likes to build his own creations and collect some pieces. And the first one is the black 1x8 tile with the Taj Mahal written on it. The architecture sets do this. They'll have the tile printed that has the, building or the whatever it might be, the structure that it is representing. But that's a really cool piece. Another thing, sticking with tiles, the dark orange tiles. If you like dark orange, I know a lot of people love dark orange. It's not a super common color. This comes with a ton of colors. In fact, I think the 2x2 corner tiles, the first time appearing in dark orange in Lego in this set right here. You get 61 2x2 tiles. You get those facet corners, and you also get a bunch of 2x4 tiles in the dark orange color. So I look forward. I think this looks great. We're going to keep it displayed. Don't get me wrong for a while, but I'm looking forward to taking these pieces out and using them in something. They're Julie mentioned the white ingots, 96. 96 of those in here. A ton of white and tan plates that are, I think, going to be very useful for any sort of mock building. And another piece that I thought was interesting are these little spires that you mentioned right here. Those are the wands from Harry Potter, but in pearl gold, the first time they appear in that color in Lego. So that comes in this set. So really unique pieces.
Aren't they in the gold figures that they released for the Harry Potter?
Yeah, so they came in the Harry Potter sets for the gold minifigs as well. So
this was released at the same time as this set.
Same day as this set. So June 1st was kind of the debut, I think, of those gold wands, and they came in this set as well as the Harry Potter through the gold 20th year anniversary minifigs. But still, you don't have to buy Harry Potter. If you don't like Harry Potter, you don't have to buy Harry Potter to get these if you want to get a set.
Some of the pieces that you don't see in here are pretty cool, because one thing I like about Lego is the pieces you don't see in the end are all these bright colors, which makes it a lot easier to build at the beginning, because you're like, oh, there's a bright green or orange, and they don't all mix together in the pictures, so it makes it super easy to build.
Yeah, and it helps you identify which end pieces go on, which is, I think, one of the techniques they like to use in putting the set together. And of course, some of those pieces can be relatively cheap. They have like an overabundance of them from one year. They can carry them on to the next year. Now, I love snot building techniques, and looking at this, I can see that they use a lot of great white tiles here in the archways. They do a nice job of getting different snot techniques, and the pieces that they use for that are in white. Again, really useful if you're building kind of next level adult style mocks. I'm not saying that if you're trying to make a good mock you have to use snot techniques, but if you want to be able to do that, this comes with quite a bit of those pieces as well. Finally, I love building castle stuff. I will note that this set is the first one to come with these 2x2 window pieces. You can maybe see them at the very front, the lattice inserts. First time that those appear in the color white. So that's useful. And those are relatively a new piece. They also came out in the Harry Potter 2021 sets, but it's nice as a castle builder to have those 2x2 window inserts. So finally, there was one piece that I saw when I was looking through the Bricklink inventory, and I couldn't remember seeing it on the speed build, but it's this like 1x2 brick that's stacked up that has studs on 3 sides. It comes with one in black.
I don't remember where it was at.
I've never seen that piece before. It wasn't indicated that it was
one?
new. Just one in the set, one in black, and I thought that was really interesting. It has to be on the inside.
It might be under the graves.
I bet you it's under the graves. I'll have to go back and rewatch the speed build now because of that. But that was the piece. Looking through the Bricklink inventory, I was like, wait, what? That was a brand new piece for me.
Colin, what do you rate this set?
I gave it a 9 out of 10. And I think it's pretty evident as to why. It's great pieces. I think it's a great deal for the price. It looks great as a display piece. And of course, if you take it apart, you've got incredible pieces to use in a variety of mocks, whether you want to use them for buildings or you want to make something micro scale similar to this. The only knock I would have is just that you really are confined by the scale to not get all the details that you might want to get in. And one thing that we were talking about, I'm going to steal this, so hopefully you weren't going to mention it, is, when you have these candle pieces here as columns, they aren't actually affixed at the bottom, so they can kind of come off a little bit easier. Now, that said, I understand why they did that. They would have to wreck that whole 1x1 tile pattern to try to make those a bit sturdier, but yeah, 9 out of 10, and it's probably closer to a 9.5 than it is a 9. that's how I would go with it.
Well, Colin and I are in complete agreement. I'm also giving it a 9, but I was going to say 2, almost a 9.5. So we're really on the same page on this one. Yes, those candle ones aren't attached, which is a little bit of a flaw. And like you said, the size, for the size it is, I really don't think they could have really done much better of a job. It really is excellently done. The lack of detail is only due to the size. And I like the size, so I wouldn't even change that. The only other thing that I thought was a little bit of a drawback is when this lifts out really nice, but this piece in here is really challenging to get back in, and it's always tricky to get it back in there, so that doesn't fit in really nice. But that's about it. There are a couple tricky things to the build, but that adds to the challenge too, so I wouldn't even knock that. So really, overall, I think it's a fantastic set.
Great value for $120. By the way, this is our first foray into the architectural line. I was once given as a gift the Seattle Space Needle, the small one from years ago, but this is the first time we've ever actually spent our money on an architecture set, and
which is one of my favorite lines, actually. I haven't really gotten Lego before, but if I were before this channel, it would have been an architecture set. So I like these sets.
Yeah, I do too. Great pieces. Highly recommend this particular set, and I think we might try to get back into the architecture scene at a later date.
So one thing that makes this a little bit special, it's the first Lego set that's been specifically for me.
But remember, what's hers is mine, and what's mine is hers. So she has all my Lego, and I have all of hers. All right, that wraps it up for this. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel so you can get more feedback, commentary, and speed builds, all that fun stuff as we build Lego together. So always remember,
keep building together.